Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charnley. This is another Cumbrian church. This is the Church of St. Barnabas, Great Strickland. The church here was built in 1870. Prior to that date, really, the village of Great Strickland, not to be confused with Little Strickland, was in many ways a staunchly Quaker village. The Quakers have had their day and ceased to be now, sadly, but it was a staunchly Quaker village at one point. But 1870, this church is built, and it's a good example of a particular type of Victorian church. Now, God willing, the next video will be of Little Strickland, which is an early 19th century building, and there's quite a difference between the two. But as we look around here, we will see the various features of this pretty much intact Victorian, originally Chapel of Ease, later parish church, and of course now, as with so many, it's part of a wider benefice. So let's have a look around. And so, as usual, we begin at the west end. We have here the font, which is original 1870 and Victorian, sort of acquired taste. There's some interesting images. Here we have a sort of flame thing. Here we have a fish, ichthus, of course, a cross, dove for the Holy Spirit, and I'm sure that's something. It's a relatively plain and simple building, both inside and out. Nothing much in the way of memorials. Font cover is in memory of Wilfred Thomas Smith, 1886 and 1975, and his wife Teresa, 1894 to 1957. He was headmistress of Great Strickland School, 1938 to 1957, given 1976 by their family, but it's got to be just the cover. We have here typical Victorian pews, nice Victorian pulpit, again of the open type, the type where you can, well, if he's wearing a surplice you can't, but you might be able to see the preacher's legs. The organ is a positive organ. This particular organ built in 1935, a house and parish church, moved in 1964 to St. Peter's, Kingsmore, and given in 1979 to this church by his veteran family and friends in memory of John Richard Taylor, 1905 to 1979, who lived and worked all his life in the village and for many years took great care of the church and churchyard. And there we are looking west. And back to that very nice pulpit. I do like that. Those, of course, candlesticks, or the actual candlestick bits, have come off. Nice roof. Choir stalls are quite interesting. There's, again, these sort of open work fronts. Unusual. And the only windows we've got are these Victorian pre-Raphaelite. They're fun, aren't they? You've got Christ, Salvator Mundi in the middle, and Virgin Mary, and St. John. And they're members of the, I think, Plumer family crucifix, because they obviously were a bit high here. And yes, Plumer family. And there's the view west. So very, very simple building. Nice roof. Very, very simple. It's designed to be quite relatively cheap to build and maintain, which is a good thing, actually. And there we have the pulpit again. Very good. Very nice, and again, that nice positive organ. Positive Organ Company, as I said before, specialised in making these small church organs. So I think that is all the inside here. It's very simple, not a lot to see. Oh, there is a war memorial, the First World War, 4 men, Lance Corporal George Shaw, Private George Strong, Private Arthur Bradley and Private Harrison Bullman. And there's that font at the back. Oh, and the doors are lined with green baize. That's an insulating material to keep out the cold, and a very good idea it is too in Cumbria. So that is the inside here. And so here we are outside of Great Strickland. Again, you can see very simple. Got this flesh thing in the middle. Well, I say in the middle, it's at the break of naval chancel. Simple building made of local stone. And yeah, not a lot to say about it beyond that. Have a look around the outside and comment on what there is to see. It's a north side entrance because the north side is the one that faces onto the street, and therefore the vestry has been put on the south side. Little shed there, and you can see probably storage, possibly boiler room underneath the vestry. Nice setting. East end polygonal apse, which is quite common, again, these Victorian churches, Anglo-Catholic type thing. Although polygonal apses, in fact, are incredibly rare in medieval churches in Britain, and they are a sign, in a medieval church, polygonal apse is a sign that is a really, really important building. Not so here. Here it's just Victorians. It's notable that the Victorians, you have this idea, we have to have something that feels more medieval. The reality is the Victorians don't really understand the Middle Ages very often, and so but also what you get is, instead of medieval English, you get this sort of, and there's sort of Frenchified feel to this. You get this sort of French and continental Gothic rather than the Gothic of medieval England. You get a style instead that owes much, much more to the continent than it does to medieval England. Some people manage to avoid it, Pewdham is one of them, but on the whole what you get is these Frenchified things like the polygonal apse. So there we have the outside at Great Strickland. And so there we have it, St Barnabas, Great Strickland. Simple building, good example of these little Victorian chapels, these new churches, and of course the whole idea is that of increasing the reach of the Church of England, and there is an element here of competition with nonconformity. Here in Cumbria there's a lot of Methodism in particular, and most of them have gone now. Methodist chapels are closed, but you'll still see some of them open, and many of the buildings are still in existence. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.